Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. It's 4:02 p.m. my time, Sunday, the 13th of October, and today we're going to have a lovely and relaxed conversation with Santo. Hello, Santo. Yes. Good. Me too. It is very, very weird. Hi, Chris. I can't explain it. Yeah, I generally let guests on the show call the shots. If you have nothing jumping out at you topically, then I can certainly take lead. But I'll leave it. 1 second, Santo. I've just been informed that you are in fact muted. This is beyond. I just did the exact same setup with Jody and had no problems. Like this is beyond the beyond. Like I don't know why you're not coming. I know you can hear me, but the problem is the audience can't hear you. So let me try and bring in Mac OS audio capture and desktop application audio capture. And we'll go to Zoom and we'll see if that works. Give it
Is
a
it
give.
working?
Yes, it is. I see the
Uh-huh.
bars. I see the bars moving. I trust there's no echo, so we should be good.
Was none of the audio captured so far?
Just my voice.
Wow. Okay. So just to reiterate, hi Bruce,
Hi, Santo.
life is normal.
Hmm.
Life, life is good. But since we did our last podcast, that was after I had that watch your episode with that whole exorcist and that. And then that same day, I think I had a super, what I call food poisoning, which I've never had in my life. I mean, projectile about 5 times, absolutely almost paralyzed by it. And then we've been talking and chatting, but the amount of people and events that have happened since then and now is pretty insane. In terms of people that you have, been in contact with in the past, but events happening where they're suddenly there and it's been incredibly busy, not for any particular reason, but each time you encounter these people, there's something meaningful to talk about
Yeah.
or meaningful to resolve. So it kind of is an accelerant. It's like putting fuel on fire, I feel, some of these encounters and conversations. And if you're not prepared for it, it can wear you down. It's quite tiring in a lot of ways, but at the same time, very rewarding and kind of stimulating to have these kind of encounters and conversations. But they've been back to back, back to back. Uh, but it also aligns with, I think, what's happening as an accelerant. There's like fuel on fire going on around the world. So there's only so many topics you can look at or focus on, because if you try to look at this massive blaze going on around the world, it kind of engulfs you because you're not really taking it in. You're just too close to the fire. Whereas if you step back a bit, you can kind of watch the flames and get a bit of an impression what dragon is in that part of the fire and what dragon's in that part. But again, it was interesting. You sent me a link to a book just before, something to do with dragons, and and it's these synchronicities. I thought it was funny. You sent me that link because just yesterday, a local person on the mountain who we felt comfortable with but never invited to our place, and suddenly this kind of synchronicities happen and they come round, and they've got a very interesting, complicated life. But the big issue in their life that they felt was dragons and a dragon energy. And it was apparent when they walked through the door that that was part of their energy makeup.
Mm-hmm.
But they had been through some shamanistic kind of experiences who kind of understand it, but not really understand it. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it was such a big theme of yesterday's conversations to have you send me that link. I don't know what it was, dragons. I just had to have a little giggle and go, oh, thanks, Bruce. Thanks for
So
confirming the dragons.
dragons are very good entities.
Yeah,
I heard they were the first thing created, like before everything. Okay, they were the first race of
yeah.
beings created, and they live an unbelievably long period of time. And everybody I know who's got dragon energy in their life or dragons in their life is benefited by it. So I've heard nothing but good things about dragons. There's a book I have to finish up and get published for Bob and Kiahi specifically on the dragon energy, which is a love energy. It's a series of poems that are unbearably beautiful and vulnerable and open. But I just, holy cow, like this, I am New York 1989 busy. Like it's crazy. People think I'm being rude. I get so for those of you at home, and you guys got to understand, if I don't have time to talk to you, realize I could literally spend 10 hours a day on Skype. The number of requests I get for conversation. Okay, and so I enjoy first conversations, like meeting people for the first time. If they clue into me through the podcast or through one of the books, I'll always talk to people. And people get involved in your life, and if I'm capable of helping them, I'll help them. Sometimes it's very easy, and sometimes I can't help because really they're the problem and I don't have the heart to tell them. But now I'm just super busy. And then to coincide with this, there's a series of family emergencies. And when I get busy, I have to concentrate like it's nobody's business. Technical writing, I'm working on claims now that my end alone, the commission is, well, I'm not going to say, but it's like if you're between 20 and 26, it might be what you make in a year, right? And there can't be a syllable out of place, and everything's going off like fireworks, right? Stepson wasn't able to make his child support. He borrowed money from the Colombians in San Jose. He's behind in his payments. They're going to kill him. Yeah, okay, I can't deal with that right now. So-and-so is blowing up, and so-and-so, yeah. And really, one moment, please, Santo, because this is for all of us, including myself.
Yeah.
Do not feel guilty, folks, if you have a seat in a life seat. The Titanic is going down, and it's going to be very dramatic to see all of these people drowning in their own karma. but there's not a molecule out of place in this reality. Not a molecule out of place. And that includes the people who are being victimized now. You have to figure out why you're being victimized. Stop whining. Stop saying it's unfair. There's a reason the energies of this moment in time can do what they're doing to you. And it's your spiritual responsibility to figure this out. Okay? So, what I do with the family emergencies is if it's financial, I help out. And if it's something else, my wife usually takes care of it. She's very good at handling all of the emotional problems of the family. But I just also, like you, Santo, I find it very coincidental that in the busiest point I've been in I don't know, maybe the last, well, the last one I had was like in February. And I also got jacked that time too. So remember, I have two deadlines, right? One is end of June, one is end of December, but I've got clients now that have to be finished up, and they're huge. And the last time I went through this in like February, my son was here, the possessed super soldier was here, and one of my son's friends from Portland was here. Nice enough kid, a little bit odd, raised by two women, and I've got all this energy around me because they're all young. They're high all the time. You know, I'm trying to get my work done. Hey, we're out of weed. The fuck do you want me to do? You shouldn't even be smoking that shit. You really, you like those beautiful 3 meals a day? You see what I'm doing at the computer? This is what pays for it. Fuck off. I can get quite prickly at times, right? You gotta kind of like defend your space at times, right? But
Yeah.
I find, I don't know, there's a certain kind of person going through what we're going through now, and they're extremely self-centered. Dare I say, they're very Jewish, right? Like when the Jews are in trouble, they expect the world to stop and help them because, hey, the Jews are in trouble. But when other people, you know, look at their foreign aid. How much money do they give to other countries? None. Right? None. And by Netanyahu's own words, they're the eighth most powerful nation in the world now. Okay? Economically, in eighth. This is a country of 9.25 million people. Most of you listening to me live in countries with cities that have greater populations than that. Okay? Eighth most powerful country in the world. So, it's an interesting time to be alive. And, we'll see what happens. But it's not going to stop. It's going to get crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. And, go back to my last few podcasts. You got to have the heart to step back and let people hit their breaking points. Because this is what's going, if you're going to make it through this now and you're not suitable to make it through what we're going through, you can be broken and reformed before the passage and make it through. But most people are resisting the breaking now. Right? And so this is how I see it, Santo. I don't know how you see it.
Well, the analogy you made with the Titanic, it makes a lot of sense because we're literally all on the same boat. It's
Yeah.
when you feel that you have some unsinkable boat and you're watching the Titanic sink that you become disconnected from the reality of what you've just explained. But
Yeah.
when you know that we're all on the same boat, you have to kind of get a grip on reality that you're on a sinking boat, yet you're not going to drown. It's
Yeah.
kind of a paradox. It's like, how can I, and being a Sicilian, we don't swim.
Yeah.
And it's like, if this boat's going down, how am I going to survive? Right.
Hey folks,
So that
I put the Zoom link in the YouTube chat. If anyone wants to pop in and say hello, feel free, okay? I'll let you in when I see you. Go ahead, Santo. Apologies.
no problems. It's that kind of constant paradox of awareness of who you are, yet you're on a sinking boat, yet the ironic part is you know you won't drown. And that's the part that people find impossible and challenge you on all the time. They try to draw you in and say, hey, buddy, you're going down with me because we're on a sinking boat. But if you say, I get it, we're on a sinking boat, but I'm not going to drown, they attack you for being a smart ass or, you're a conspiracy theorist or,
Mm-hmm.
what would you know? They'll fact check you. So you understand how this correlates directly to how the cancelling algorithm is working, the misinformation, disinformation, and the panic to create global control through some form of, digital identity, which
Mm-hmm.
has been introduced in Europe now. Forget which countries, but Poland. Poland was one of the first ones, and it's just ridiculous. They have literally just a piece of plastic that looks like an eye, and people are lining up to go, this is the surest way for me to be safe because I am literally on the blockchain. And you go, what's wrong with humanity? And I think there is a parallel between the analogy of being on the sinking Titanic and the blockchain of those that are all going to hold hands, saying by holding hands with our digital IDs, we're safe, and they'll all go down together. It's kind of weird how the very thing that is safe and effective, as we've heard before, uh, is going to be the very thing that's introduced on steroids to get people to hold hands so that
Yeah.
everyone can be captured.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. You have to
And
be.
there are,
Go ahead. I'm getting
it's
comfortable
insane
here.
that
It's a
there are so
different kind
many
of
people.
podcast. I can kick my legs up and just relax and let you take the reins and drive the
Sure.
stagecoach, right?
It's one of those mornings. I actually, and this is the other ironic part, is we have come out of winter. We're well and truly into spring. We had an incredible heat wave, and we've had storms and hail and all sorts of stuff. Yet this morning, I've got the fireplace going because it's like a winter's morning.
Yeah.
It's like just deal with it. But if you are kind of hypersensitive, and this is the problem, we've gotten used to controlling our environment. In other words, people say, I moved to the mountain and I'm in tune with nature. Yet you look at their garden, they've ripped down nature and they've planted everything in a straight line. And then they mow around it. And you go, well, hang on, that is, and they cannot understand that they're literally trying to control nature now.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why then don't feel happy in their own skin because they moved to the mountain. What's wrong? And you
I
go, well,
couldn't agree more,
we'll figure it
Santo.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
just don't mow the lawn. Just don't mow the lawn on your programmed fortnightly basis because it's not just the noise of the mower that it disturbs the peace of those that don't use mowers. You'll figure out by letting the grass grow that there's something in that grass that you need to communicate with and figure out how to
yeah.
reconnect with nature. So we're
Yeah.
so far from that. And I have a lot of friends now and even family that are waking up to the fact that the city dense life is developing this kind of pungent smell that they can't quite label, but they
Hmm.
want to start to distance themselves from it.
Yeah.
But what tends to happen is they have the concept of going, I need to leave
Yeah,
this,
but I
and
want you to
they'll,
think about something. I want you to think about
well,
something. Think about how long it took you to get into the vibe of where you live now, and think of like a 20 to 50% population increase in your mountain community for people who are only coming to realize what you already realized a decade ago. They're going to have 1 to 5 years of deprogramming on the mountain. This is why I'm not too keen on bringing foreigners over to my little pueblo, right? Because
Yeah.
it's no small thing to live in another culture. It's no small thing to live in nature. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Santo.
You bring up a good point, which is when you reflect on your own journey, you go, I didn't get here in 24 hours. And then you can see the various steps that you took, that it wasn't an overnight experience. It was a learning journey.
Hmm.
So I think, well, hang on, this is not going to work in the current time because if people move to the mountain and they spend all their life in the city, those graduated steps, there just doesn't seem to be the time for it. So the question I ask is, are we actually spiritually and consciously able to accelerate in this time processes that took X amount of time? Doesn't matter how you were attuned in the past, that the times are right for those that are ready to have the advanced course without doing you know, the intermediate or the basic. In other
Yeah.
words, if you're willing to put in the effort, you can go straight to, you don't have to do the intermediate, you can go straight to advanced.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're disciplined, if you if you're willing to put in what it takes. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, there are going to be a lot of experiences that in the past you would have been afraid. Yeah, you're going
You're
to hit
good.
the,
You're
you can
good.
still
Keep
hit.
talking.
Okay. Yeah, because it ties back in to what you've been trying to explain for quite some time, being this concept of demons and the devil and the dark. And because we've been subjected to such a cultural and religious program of a particular way of looking at that, in order to avoid it. More than anything, it's permeated into our day to day life of how we avoid even simple things that we consider negative, when in
Yeah.
fact they're part of the balancing of the process of growing. And it's a really difficult thing to explain. So I understand that despite writing books about it, it's still a difficult thing to not so
I'm
much explain, to embrace.
I'm getting close now. Like I think even but what I have to do is I have to completely let myself go and trust in the moment. There's no amount of planning that can make the magical podcast happen. It just has to happen or it doesn't happen. And if I have any fear or hesitation about saying things out loud, it just pollutes the whole thing. But last night, the BG one, Saturday Night Fever, where I gave the example of using your imagination, and your imagination speaks something back to you, and you go and validate it in the timeline, and you go, okay, that was object information that came through an imaginative structure. How did that happen? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the beginning of your spiritual life. That's where it begins. Congratulations. You're on the astral plane and you're jumping around time, okay? Which you can do on the astral. So it just begins from there, and then it goes up, and then you stop dealing with images in your consciousness and you deal with pure object energy that is not imaginative. It's like rain or sunshine. These, when people talk about the light, well, actually, I think 9 times out of 10 they're speaking metaphorically these days, but the light is actually literal. It's actually literal. Your consciousness is flooded with light in deep meditation at a certain level of your progress. But before you get there, you're going to go through all the freaky imagination stuff. And if you're not based and you're steeped in this demonology stuff, your imagination is going to clobber you. Because, let me explain, So if we talk about the law of attraction, your ability to attract things on the astral is almost immediate. Your ability to attract things on the physical, it depends on the energy current going through you, and how many times you seek to manifest things. If you're constantly manifesting and counter manifesting, like, oh, I want that donut, I better not have that donut, realize that at the consciousness level, there's a whole energetic structure there going, get him the donut. And then you're calling in another army to fight your own other internal army. No, he doesn't want the donut. But when you do that on the astral, it's almost instantaneous. Okay, so when you lose it there, and you succumb to fear or anything, you're going to get walloped. But everybody has to go. Everybody has to go through this now. One more thing, Santo.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm talking to you. I don't like the cats coming in this window. They've already knocked over like a $200 monitor and broke it. Right? These cats are
But it looked
just.
like you were. It looked like you were talking to a demon the way you were pointing into the air up there. It was like
Let
you were
me
metaphorically saying,
let me
"Get out of
tell
here."
you a little secret about cats, Santo. Okay, you're not that far off. So it appears, because this has happened 3 times now, just in 2024. I now live on what I would call consecrated ground, and what are you looking at?
Who?
Oh, okay, never mind. I now live on consecrated ground, okay? So something has happened up here now where this really freaky thing is going on with my house, okay? So it began in the beginning of 2024. And whatever a person has inside them will come out and show itself to me. So I have as you know, I have all these psychic friends. Here's what I say to those psychic friends. Come see me. It'll become physical. So it began with the super soldier. 3 snakes in 1 week. And then my neighbor gets possessed. We call the ambulance. They do all the tests, blood pressure, oxygenation of blood, heart rate, and they go, she's perfectly fine. It's all in her head. And I mean, this was just right out of one of the movies. And the hands were curled up like this, and she was possessed. Okay? And it was all coming through the super soldier. And before this final night before he left, which I said, look, you got to leave because you've done nothing to clean yourself up, and that was one of the conditions of you coming here. But before that happened, there were 3 snakes in a week, in 5 days, on my front patio. Okay, 3 poisonous snakes, 3 terciopellos. And then Bob came up, and I heard him say this on another podcast, so I'm not invading his privacy at all. Bob had a tall white Draco in his field. And these are like the nastiest of the nastiest reptilians, okay? And it came in when he was in a weakened state in the hospital. And he was managing it, but he had not been able to expel it. Now, Bob didn't tell me this when he showed up here. I asked him, I said, Bob, what's going on? And the reason I asked him was I had a horsefly infestation on the front balcony. So every night we would sit down to talk, there would be anywhere from 6 to 20 of these things. And the sting is it's something. Like, it's not a wasp, but it's more than the horsefly in Northern Ontario. Like, you feel it. It's like, ow! Right? And then you have a big bump the next day where the horsefly bit you. And so I say, Bob, what's going on? And he says, I got a tall white Draco in my field. So we did a bunch of spiritual work over about a week, and we literally created an environment where it couldn't exist. And folks, you'd be amazed at how similar this is to the body. So, when you're fighting cancer, what is it? You deacidify your body? The alkaline level? What? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So You change your physical environment so the cancer can't survive. You can do the same thing with your psychic environment, okay? And the best thing to do is mantra. Mantra, 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 2 hours a day. And you'll just, they'll be like somebody, these entities, however powerful they seem, when they have a firm fix in your consciousness, you start to change your psychic environment and you'll start to see them. They're just like holding on to a little ledge by their fingertips, and it's 1,000 feet down, and then finally you keep chanting and chanting, and then boom, it just has to let go, and it can't hold on anymore. And the third one is an American guy who's been over here in Costa Rica about 35 years. He's a bit famous. And with him, I saw what I thought was a very large spider on the back wall, about 30 meters back from where I go out here and look out the door and look down to the other building. As I walked closer to it, it turned out it wasn't a spider. It was just the leafless branches of a plant at the side of the house that had made it look exactly like a spider. I went, gee, that's weird. And then later that night, my wife comes and shows me her cell phone, and she's got a picture of this big spider that happens up here in the rainforest. It's not a tarantula. This spider can kill a horse with its bite, okay? And that came out of this American friend who stayed with me for a month. So people are coming up here, and because this is a consecrated space, everything in them has to declare itself to me. And I'm saying this because I want people to understand what a true relationship with land is. Your land will protect you once you consecrate it. And you consecrate it by living correctly, by being moral, and by doing a lot of spiritual work. Okay? So, back to you, Santo.
Yeah. See, what you've said, it can only make sense to those that get it, which is kind of a weird circular way of
We're in that.
saying it.
You know, that's a very interesting thing that you just said, okay? Because today I happened to watch a couple Douglas Murray clips. The British twink who's the big Israel supporter. And I watch these videos, I go, damn, that's convincing. And then I remind myself that he's only talking in a very narrow, logical, he doesn't see the spiritual stuff. He doesn't understand. Right? And
that's a big point. That's a big point because when you talk and say what you say, that does make sense to those who get it. It brings up a very touchy concept of trust. And it's kind of like a discussion like OASPI we're having, where there's the 3D version of what's going on, and you've been talking the top half of the page of the mirror of what's going on in astral and that. Well, for those that cut themselves off from the top half of the page of what really is the complete picture of what's going on, this issue of trust is really important. So what happens is people go and they listen to someone who's given them the top half of the page mirror image of what's going on in the bottom, and they go, oh, that sounds trustworthy. And they haven't built their own internal discernment. They've externalized it in the form of a belief system. And when they then go through that top half of the page into that world, it doesn't turn out the way the belief system told them it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And so they become even more convinced that you have got it wrong. And then they listen even more to that person you were talking about because they make sense.
And then when you finally figure it out, you go, holy fuck, I better go live in a remote mountainous area, because people are not, the two disparities in consciousness are not going to be able to work themselves out. Not without an act of God, okay? You're never going to wake Doug Murray up. He's making $1 million a year as a mouthpiece for Israel, despite the fact he's not Jewish and he's gay, And they love him. The rabbis love that he's out. The rabbis do videos about him. Watch Douglas Murray destroy, you know, and it's not going to reconcile itself. This is irreconcilable, okay? And this is happening because all of the energies and circumstances we've been lied to about in World War I and World War II are percolating up now. And this is why the Jews are on everybody's mind, okay? Oh, but, and when you listen to Doug Murray, you think, oh my God, maybe the Jews are the chosen people. Look at what they can do. And that's why I do videos like Materialism is Pornography, okay? When you're truly happy, you don't get sick. You don't need the medicine, okay? When you see things correctly, you don't need all these material perks. It's all just... And it's all leading us to what is ultimately going to be this captured consciousness where they lock us in to frequency with bio-augmentation, whether it's chips in the brain or what have you. And then when that happens, because the Creator won't allow that to happen, the Creator will allow it to happen, but then that's an end game. The Creator will destroy all life on this planet and begin again. And I sometimes think, forgive me for saying this out loud, Santo, I sometimes think that's what these fucking rabbis want. That they just want to burn the whole thing down. It's like Michael Caine's great line about the Joker in Batman, The Dark Knight. Some people can't be reasoned with, sir. They just want to burn the world down. So much truth in that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned that person. That what you said about that particular person and the way they're incredibly logical and convincing. And I recently watched an interview. I can't think of his name. Is this well-known podcaster, writer, agnostic, interviewing Harari? The guy from
Yeah.
the young lackey from World Economic Forum.
Mm-hmm.
And because like Harari's written a number of books, and every second person I meet, I ask, have you read Homeless Days? Oh, brilliant book, because there is a logic to it. And it's slightly out of alignment with what somebody would consider to be rhetorical, historical way of presenting the truth. And they consider themselves out of the box by allowing themselves to stretch their imagination and their thought process to embrace this.
Yeah.
So they're and I find that a lot of people that Joe Rogan brings on sometimes have that charismatic intellectual thrust
Yeah.
that allows the audience to go, these guys are smart. And they are smart,
Yeah.
just like the rabbis. They're smart dudes. But that's not the point. So inevitably, when you meet people that want to go through the spiritual path via an interview they saw on Joe Rogan, you're already on the back foot
Yeah.
because they want to have an intellectual kind of debate about the spiritual world, and they put the full onus on you that until you in the court of spiritual law can, if you can't prove it, if there's 1 ounce of doubt, then case closed. And
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of the time I lived in Israel because I enjoy conversations and debates, but when you always know ahead of time that you're on the back foot because of the way they set up
Yeah.
the conversation, the conclusion. So you might as well say each time you win, and they go, of course, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's all they want to know is that they're still winning. So I
Yeah.
do prescribe with the adage of I do not consent. That does disturb them because they do want you to engage because they know or they think they know they've already won. But by getting you to engage in the debate is not only a way of them having various techniques of harvesting your energy, they know they can at least distract you enough while they try their hell to fulfill an agenda that they already know has failed, which
Yeah,
sounds weird,
it does.
so but they're not going to risk having people who actually are awake, even though they already know they'll fail. So they will do everything they can to engage you in conversation, listening, debate. And some of them, like you said, you listen to that one, they're pretty good at it.
Yeah,
So there are elements of the way they converse, debate, that are worthy of taking note. Because if you don't, you end up like some of these love and light, sort of podcasters. You go,
yeah,
you're not making sense at all. You need to have a little bit of rabbi logic in there somewhere, you know, because there's so much love and light, fear mongering, and just nonsense kind of conclusions just because they're spiritual, you
yeah,
know. And that's when they can have a go. And they always pick the most ridiculous love and light podcaster to go, oh, look, they said 5G is coming in through a worm through your big toe. See, stupid, you know,
yeah.
cut them all off. And they're using exactly those same tactics now, even at a political level, with
Hmm.
the way they cherry pick valid lines that Trump says, like about the FEMA, how the FEMA
What did he say?
sort of funds have been diverted for.
Oh, right.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, the FEMA funds have been diverted and used up for illegal immigrants.
It's
So,
amazing. It's
but
amazing how you and I can have a completely political podcast, but we're not really talking politics or in political terms. If you think about it,
no, this is
we're,
people.
we're at the
That's well,
we're
that's it.
we're at the root of the problem, where the root draws the water.
Exactly, because essentially we're all political animals. In some way, we have kind of lines, affiliations, colours. We all do. It's a matter of saying, is it really dark and black colours, or do you have a bit of lightness around these colours? And is the spiritual path kind of like a political campaign? In some ways, it is. In some ways, it is. But it's not about convincing people. But you
Yeah,
do have to have your story as a convincing story for them to embrace.
yeah.
But the way the political
Wait till
aficionados are
wait
doing
till
it,
wait till
okay?
the average Jew figures out the rabbis have been lying for centuries, and sin begins in thought, not in action. They're fucked.
Yeah.
They're fucked. Chabad, the Lubavitches are commanded by their edicts to pray 5 times a day for the destruction of Christians. Okay, but they don't
Yeah.
sin. But Rabbi Barclay said to Candace Owens, "We're holy people," and they really believe it because they follow all the rules, but their heart's not in it. It's
Yeah.
become, people are gonna start to see it, and they're just gonna go, "Wow,
Yeah.
this is what Bruce and Santo
Yeah.
were talking about." Like,
Yeah.
holy cow! Like, they don't
Yeah. But
love
you
anybody.
sent
They
me,
they don't they don't love
no.
anybody. They don't even love each other. It's it it but and it's a profound testament to our time that the unity that they maintain with each other is beating every other form of unity, because there's no love in their unity. But when we figure it out and we stand up, they're finished. They're finished, and they
Yeah.
know it. And they know it.
Well, I think it was you who sent me this video of, I don't think they were rabbis, they were, uh, he was talking about Candace Owen and how he'd been to her wedding. Did you send me that video? And how
Maybe I
he
can't remember.
was, yeah. Anyway, this very pro-Israel person's interviewing this other person, very intellectual, very logical debate, and he was expressing his profound disappointment in Candace because
Yeah.
he'd been to her wedding. They have a way of being incredibly patronizing and
Oh, go back,
condescending like no one else can be.
go back and watch The Sopranos. It's hilarious. That so the Italian gangster has the Jewish mindset completely. You know, when Junior's feuding with his nephew Tony, he says to his capos, "You believe I took that kid to Yankees games when he was 12? All I did for that kid, and I invested, and I'm not getting anything. I went to Candace Owens' wedding, and she treats us like
Yeah,
this. Did you
yeah,
think she
yeah, but
sold
he
her
does it.
soul?"
Yeah, but he does it in a way that is kind of a superiority attitude in a very convincing, gentle voice, in a very measured way that says, I feel so sorry for Candace. I went to her wedding. And he then goes on to say, I took my time to write a 7,500 response to what she's done. And I read that 7,500 response, and it is brilliant because it just supports everything that
Yeah,
you've been saying. And it's just so and if you don't know how to read between those lines, those 7,500 words will draw you right into, oh damn, Candace, what a bitch.
yeah,
She
yeah,
really did the Jews in. She really did. Just read the 7,500 word,
yeah,
measured, well thought out, took him 3 months to really think about what she said. And she just flew off the handle on a show and just lost it. And here we are just picking up the pieces.
yeah,
Mankind just doesn't know how to deal with. Let's pick up the pieces for them, you know.
yeah.
And you're like,
Here's another clue. The reason they attack all the other religions is it's because it's very similar to getting the tall white Draco out of Bob. When those religions are functioning and the vibration is raised on the planet, it's inhospitable for the state of consciousness the Jew lives in, and they're going to have to change or
yeah,
go, and they won't allow that to happen. They're literally the tent peg holding down the consciousness of the human race right now. But
yeah.
and this is the ironic mirror I talk about all the time on my podcast. When you go through the ironic mirror, you get Doug Murray saying, "Oh, they're light years ahead of the rest of humanity." Or Jordan Peterson, "They made the desert bloom," you know? And yeah, yeah. Now
Yeah, but that's look.
somebody said in the comments that they like that Douglas Murray stands up to the woke nonsense. Yet the woke nonsense is also Jewish as well. So realize it's a red herring in the whole debate, right? It's low
It's
hanging fruit.
brilliantly done.
Oh my God,
It's
they
brilliantly done.
they could have edited Sun Tzu, The Art of War. They could have edited him.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I mean they're brilliant at what they do. You got to tip your hat and you got to recognize it. But the very fact that
yeah.
they're always in a state of warfare tells you who they are. They're restless spirits.
Well, it's like reading the United Nations documents for the recent summit they had. And it's like when you read through it, if you can't translate their language, you're a goner because it says all the quote unquote right things,
Yeah,
every paragraph. It's only when there are certain paragraphs that are a little bit extreme that might trigger someone because it's a little bit too much in the woke category. But otherwise, they have literally hijacked the language of good, sustainable, all these word salad words, and they have an infinite number of ways of putting anything on a global agenda into that word salad
yeah,
and controlling the agenda through word salad. It's their own special language, right?
yeah,
It's been it's been a strategy that has worked. Actually, it reminds me of like being a British colony here. when you were kids, you were indoctrinated with, the British Empire. You literally would stand at attention, and God Save the Queen was played before you marched into school. Yeah, it's kind of like so obvious. And when the Queen would come to Australia, it was such a big deal because schools were like, whoa, get a little flag and, we're going to be in the queue. Oh, there's the car. Choo, choo, choo,
Same thing in
So,
Canada.
yeah, but when some people, and this is what I mean by I do not consent in action, when they came, so a group of people decided they would line up in their masses, but when the car went past them, they'd turn around, they'd turn their backs to the car. They can't handle that. They don't know what the hell's going on. Why aren't they waving? They turn their backs to us. What's going on?
Yeah.
So, but to be able to turn your back on a bear, hoping that it doesn't bite you, takes a lot of courage,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
That's the challenge. So, because we have been so programmed and indoctrinated that this bear will bite, if you don't keep us, if you don't know how to respect it, how to feed it, it's like having a bear at your door and your bin's empty and you're panicking because the bear needs to be fed, right?
Hmm.
We've been indoctrinated into treating them as a bear that it's our responsibility to feed
Yeah.
and make sure that meal is good, right? But if
Yeah.
you've got the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to leave the bin empty and it scratches the paint off your house, but then within a week it goes somewhere else,
Yeah.
it just stops bothering you.
Yeah.
But how do you get through that week and even sleep at night?
Yeah.
And this is the problem is we're in that phase now where people are literally feeling the bear crawl, scratch their skin off, but they still say they're safe and effective. That's exactly what happened in these last couple of years. And the evidence couldn't be more to the contrary.
Yeah.
Yet people, you ask them and you go, well, how did that work out for you? And their skin's literally falling off. They go, I feel fine. I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. So literally, now, every time they say this is safe and effective, put your running shoes on and run in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It's the perfect cue. In other words, they're giving us the cue for which direction we need to go in.
Yeah.
They've literally exposed themselves to that level. The
Yeah.
question is, people put their running shoes on and just run, and they run in opposite directions. And
Yeah.
if you ask them, you go, "Where you run?" I don't know. I'm just getting away from that. You go, "No,
So
you can't just run."
So, do you know many people still in the system, Santo, like still working at ministries in Australia or for big corporations that are doing evil things? Are you starting to see people hit this wall in their late 30s or mid 40s like, holy shit, I'm a complete piece of shit. Look at what they've got me doing. Do you have any cop friends? I mean, where are they finding the people who can do this stuff?
I think there's different tiers. The tiers like the cops and the ones that are literally the first level of confrontation to dispensate the order. Or I think those there, the average person is going, I wouldn't do that job, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know many that have stayed in there. I think where the real problem is at the next tier, which is more seems more benign because you're not the one pulling the car up and saying, get out of the car. It's the one that's in the back office operating the computer that spits out the tickets in the email that
Yeah.
goes, you know what, I got kids at school, I got a mortgage, it's not the best job, but it pays the rent, da
Yeah.
di da di
I,
da.
I do this for
And it,
others. I do this for others. Your wife and kids don't want you to lose your soul, folks. Because what kind of a
it
father or
is a
mother are
difficult,
you? Yeah, it's very difficult.
yeah. I like that thing I'd sent you earlier, where the first thing he says, parents is like a pair that rent, and we're
Yeah.
literally at the stage where you don't have a relationship with those children, and parents are waking up that you're not paying the correct rent to have those kids under your roof, and we're taking them. So
Yeah.
that harsh reality only seems to really happen when somebody's kid ends up autistic or otherwise or damaged for well-known reasons, and they
Yeah.
have massive regrets. And then they get on this, and you can see it happen all the time, particularly with the way they're using the fentanyls and the various drugs to destroy the next generation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you can see when parents haven't been paying attention to it, and then suddenly their child is gone. And they start these charities and funds, and you go, that's all been pre planned. That is just like saying to Big Pharma, you're going to have to pay out some. And they go, yep, whatever.
Yeah.
How many million do you
I
want?
just, I
It's
just,
like going to the mafia.
oh yeah, totally agree. I just want to address Sun Warrior in the comments. Good on you. And I don't know where you are yet in the book, but I will just say this so you know where it really comes from. I've come for the harvest. I've come for the heads. Anyways, go on, Santo.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what is happening is the trauma for a lot of people, when they see it, it's actually being reinforced. In other words, the system knows how to measure and monitor, you could say, the level of awakeness or awareness, let's say, and what intervention to bring it down. It's like having a kid that's is going to be as a teenager, and they're going to ask you for the car keys. And so you have to figure out strategies of where to hide the keys or how to make excuses
Yeah.
before they totally wreck that car,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's a real kind of game in that sense. In other words, acknowledging that it's a game is not being simplistic, because it is a game.
Yeah.
It's a matter of saying, do you have a strategy, firstly? And a lot of people go, oh, I have one at work. No, 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 a life strategy. And what layers and what are the priorities and how do you balance the strategy? Because you think about it, in a business strategy, you put together best case scenarios, worst case scenarios, recommendations, projections. You do an enormous amount of thinking around how to create a successful delivery of a project.
Yeah.
And you create mission statements and business plans and project plans and milestones, and you do
Yeah.
all this stuff, and sometimes the project still fails. And you go, how can we be so good and disciplined when we get paid the dollars to be very good at jumping on MS Project and doing all these things? But when it comes to our personal lives, we just go to Starbucks and go, oh, I don't know, she'll be right. Have another beer.
Yeah.
It'll work out,
Very
you know.
interesting observation, Santo. Very interesting.
Mm.
Now, I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about money for a moment. What do you think is going to happen with the money?
Well, interestingly, when you talk, like I talk to my son, um, they have a different mindset to my generation. Obviously, I'm one of the old baby boomers, but but I understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
That the monetary system as a fiat monetary system and the Reserve Bank as we know it, it's pretty obvious that the level of debt in the West is out
No,
of
I'm
control.
I'm talking about the retirement savings.
Oh, well, they're just an illusion. They're an
Well,
illusion,
yeah. Look, and I, I
and
I
I'm
really I really want anyone who listens to me to understand that you've got to get out of their liquidity. You've got to get out of their money system. I think even Bitcoin would be better now, although I'm not a huge Bitcoin fan. And not everybody can. I mean, if you've got $1 million, believe it or not, that's actually a significant weight in kilograms of gold. So Well, not that much actually. You know, it's
No,
2000 and
no,
2000,
not gold, maybe silver.
16 ounces in a pound, 2000 an ounce. So 32,000 a pound, 2.2 pounds in a kilogram. That's about 60. Yeah, but
That's all.
$1 million would get a bit heavy. It would weigh down the back end of an SUV. But what I'm getting at is they're going at, look, when Klaus Schwab says you're going to own nothing, he means it. And that includes your retirement. They want us to live how they tell us to live, what to eat, 15-minute cities. And I don't think they're going to succeed. But one of the stages they're going to get to is the money, and they're gonna do a bail in the United States, in Canada, in Australia. They're going to take all the money in the banks, and they have the legal right to do that now through the bail-in legislation. And according to the gentleman who wrote The Great Taking, they changed the Uniform Commercial Code ever so subtly over the last 20, 30, 40 years, so that the creditors actually, even if you have your house paid off, you got to watch a video on The Great Taking. That's exactly what you look for. The Great Taking. Go to YouTube, go to BitChute, go to X, and read up on this, because they're coming for your shekels, folks. They're coming for your shekels. Okay, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Now the plan isn't going to succeed, but this stage of the plan, and one of the reasons I think it's not going to succeed, is the amount of people that we're going to win over to our cause when these poor schleps who've worked for our age, and I know a lot of guys I grew up with in Ottawa like this, worked hard their whole life. They might have anywhere from 1 to 15 million in savings. Okay? They think they're set. The house is worth $1 million. They've got another 3 million in savings. They're set. They can retire into the sunset, golf it. No, no. They're gonna come in and they're gonna take that money, folks, legally, legally. And what's gonna happen is all those people are gonna come over to our side of the fence and go, "Hey, these guys were right all along. We're being led by complete thieves," and that'll be one of the
Yeah.
tipping points.
But it comes back to what we were just talking about before, strategy, because it reminds me of the 70s. There was an event that was taken as seriously back then as what's going on now, and it was the alignment of the planets. And the alignment of the planets, for those that thought they were in the know, meant anything from the end of civilization to, in those days, it was going to be tsunamis. Tsunamis were going to come in.
Yeah,
And so some people took it literally and literally headed for the hills, headed for the hills with no strategy, just took off, got rid of everything and burrowed up in the hills, waiting for the big tsunami, right? So, in other words, they were reactive. They had no strategy. They just reacted, and you could say, in fear of what was coming, rather than being proactive and fearless in where they were going.
yeah,
Now, years later, some people I knew who had taken this uh, flawed strategy to protect their family and to save themselves, I visited them up in the mountain, wherever they'd gone. And it was sad because they were very unhappy, very poor, had some sort of raggedly dressed kids, and had no idea why they were in the situation they were in. And you couldn't explain it to them because they thought they'd done the right thing at the time by leaving what was a coming catastrophic event. But what they did was created this isolated time warp bubble for themselves and their family, hidden
yeah.
up in the hills, and no strategy, just kind of like barely able to grow veggies and And so they were still almost in shock mode from 30 years ago,
Yeah.
waiting. And that's how I see a lot of the cults ending up. You know, they just, well, look at the JW cult, the Jehovah Witness. How many times have they changed their dates of
Yeah.
Armageddon?
Yeah.
But now
The
they're
rapture.
really
The
excited. They're
rapture.
really excited.
The rapture.
Exactly.
Mm,
But
mm.
yeah, but now they're really excited. They're really
Yeah.
excited because we were right all along. In other words, they are looking at the current global, absolutely destructive agenda with glee. They're
Hmm.
going, we were right all along, bring it on. And this is one of the dangers with misconstruing agendas that are negative. Don't embrace it and become part of a cheer squad saying, I was right.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know you're right. What are you doing? What's your solution? Are you going to
Yeah.
just cheer as everything burns down? Or are you going to run away from it with no strategy and then just live in this isolated little bubble?
Wow. Who knows, man? Who knows? Let's say hello to our friend Chris France here. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hello, Santo, hello, Bruce. I'm doing okay.
Hey,
It's
You
hey,
got,
Chris.
you know how to, so you know how to use Zoom, eh? It's a
yeah.
little bit. I'm a little surprised, actually.
I actually have a premium Zoom account.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but I
But,
use it for I use it for work to do all the engineer interviews.
yeah, but yeah, I've been raining a lot over here. We're getting the remnants of the hurricane now over here, so
Yeah.
all last night, all today, and all tonight will be rain. And I've been watching that hurricane stuff in America, and it just amazes me that the weather modification. Who did it come from? Who did it? And if you dig into it a little bit, it was a German company and also a company out of France were doing this weather modification, and you can actually see them, on the flight tracker. Watch what they're doing, and they were supposed to be up there for 10 days, and as soon as the hurricane hit, they boogied. They went back home to Germany. But the I watch Monkey Works every day when he posts his shows on YouTube, and he's the guy that watches all the military aircraft around the world, and
Yeah.
he's an ex. He he was an engineer on a B-52 flight crew.
Yeah.
He has a lot of connections into operators and things like that. But he's also pushes the Christian side of things quite a bit on his podcast. He
Christ
talks
is
about
king.
the
Christ is king,
Gog,
Chris.
Magog, and all that happening.
Christ is king. All hail the
So
Christ. Raise your shield. All
Chris,
hail the Christ. I'm not being facetious, actually.
Chris,
I love Yeshua.
hey, Chris, I was just reading something this morning. I think once we see that everything now is not just hidden in plain sight, it's not even hidden.
right.
In other words, this article I was reading was basically saying they almost want people to have podcasts talk about geoengineering because they are 10 steps ahead
Yeah.
and know that it will still be able to be inverted, even though it is hidden in absolute plain sight. So again, it goes back to strategy, because if they could predict ahead of time that geoengineering would be almost mainstream, which it is in some places, they already know that people will try to create it as the antichrist of civilization, but they're already 10 steps ahead doing something else.
Right.
Hmm.
So it's very difficult to know where to put your attention in terms of so called exposing the agenda. The agenda is exposed, it's hidden in plain
Yeah.
sight. Do we
Yeah.
even need to, track planes and all the rest? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
In fact,
the way I look at this situation that we're in right now with the is that it most people aren't prepared to accept the reality that they're going to do. There's going to be some big changes happening very soon. You know that, and they're unable to grasp that in their own reality. You know, when when they when they took out Nord Stream pipeline, which was the economic fuel for all of Europe, it was found out that it was the Americans that did it. Right, we were the ones behind it. And now I was asking a question the other day: why would Germany do this to America? And the answer was, look at what we've done to Germany this last year or two. You know,
Yeah.
the amount of unemployment in Germany has gone crazy. The migrant
Yeah.
uh, deal they got on there is insane. You know, and there was a guy on last night talking about why would we send a bunch of people into a town, Springfield, Illinois, right? A town of 50,000 people. Why would they put
Springfield,
30,000
Ohio, not Illinois.
in Ohio?
Yeah.
Small town. Why would we go in there and put 30,000 people in that town that don't belong there?
Yeah,
Don't
but
speak the language.
Chris, you're using logic that really makes sense, but you've got to remember you're dealing with the mafia. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like going to the mafia
But
boss and
but
say,
Santo,
"Why did you go and do this?"
make me think of a logical retort to Douglas Murray. So you want us to aid these people in their present conflict and preserve their energy and stamina so they can fulfill the prophecy of destroying us. Is this what you know what I mean? And then when I look at
Well,
guys like Doug Murray, I go, does he really realize what he's saying? Or does the light just hit you, the spotlight here, not the light of God, and your ego gets, oh, I'm a celebrity, I'm an intellectual, and or is he consciously in on it? Is he as evil as they are, or is he really this stupid? And if he's this stupid, he's a perfect example of the ironic mirror, because he's held up as an intelligent man now, and he's really a moron.
yeah, but you got to bring in ego, and it's not just in the rabbi Jewish whatever. Just think of politics. Just think of any other hierarchical organization where people come in, they're not necessarily aware of what the true agenda is, but they have ambitions and ego, and they're not evil, but they become embroiled, entangled, tainted, but they're not even aware of it. And
Yeah.
when they becomes an Epstein kind of client list, they've got something on them,
Or
right?
they've got him, or
And
they've got him on,
it's
or
pure
they've, or
typical
they've,
mafia.
or let's be realistic here. It's entirely possible they've got Doug Murray on tape sodomizing a 13-year-old boy in a Four Seasons hotel in London, right? I mean, it could be that simple as well. But I don't think he would be doing it as gleefully in that situation, right? Yeah, people do idolize
Yeah, but
morons
we
all the
use
time, Mike.
extreme examples. A compromise comes, yeah, but we use extreme examples, and people go, "How dare you say that?" The compromise comes in many forms. There's very, very simple ways, because you can put the fear of God by compromising someone through even an untruth, through a photo. You look at what's happening with kids these days, they're literally killing themselves because they did something silly with a photo, and
Yeah.
then they've pretty well been hijacked, and they're saying, "Give me money or I'm going to send this photo to your parents." And they literally take themselves out. So
Uh,
there's compromise done very subtly now, and people, because they live by this unrealistic moral code, they kind of think, "I'm a good Christian." If anybody, including my family, knows about, and it probably could be quite a benign issue if only they had the courage to say, "I'm being compromised. Yes, I did make a mistake, but can I explain it to you so that this doesn't turn ugly, right? They rather, through pride, ego, ambition, all those things, try to keep it undercover. You can't. The truth will come out anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very subtle because we tend to go straight to the Epstein client list, but there's compromises at every level, including in local communities. The same tactics are used, even on the
Yeah.
mountain here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of type of tactic that people use in order to gain some advantage through some sort of gossip or some sort of story that gives them an edge to become the president of the local blah blah. It's like a
Mm.
Seinfeld episode with the body corporate people, you know, or Seinfeld's parents in Florida.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah,
We're
you know,
moving to Florida, and there's not
we
a.
only have what 3 weeks till the election, right? And yeah, I still believe that they're going to do something just totally bizarre before the election. Today they had they busted another guy with assassination plans in California.
In
They're calling
But
it.
proximity?
again,
In proximity, or they just got him at home before he even got in the car?
I think they got him in the same town at the same time that Trump was there. I didn't read the whole story yet, but it was
Motel 6?
I don't know, but it was in California where Trump was speaking today at one of the rallies.
Yeah.
This guy had some
yeah,
firepower with him, so he was planning it.
but Chris, it's when we say, I think there's going to be something really big happens. We should just try to even now say, what is going to happen? My gut feel is the same old narrative. Oh, it's too close to call. We've got the postal votes to count. We got this, we got that. In other words, it becomes this kicking the can down the road exercise in order to fulfill the original agenda without anything extreme except false flags and distractions along the way to keep people thinking that some big thing's going to happen, but then the same old boring, oh my God, it's 49, it's 51, it's 52, it's 47. What's it going to be? Oh, you got to wait another month. You just wait. We'll let you know,
Yeah, it's
Be
like the
patient.
AI, it's like the alien disclosure. You know, we all have a date set with the Congress is going to release all the information, then we get the information and it's nothing new, right? The same old story.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
you know the for the last 10 days, I think 11 days, 12 days, we've been waiting for Israel to strike back at Iran. You know, so everybody's been sitting here every day going, well, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Well, today the actual Hezbollah got some drones in under the radar. They were non-detected and actually struck a Israeli military base, killed a few people and injured quite a few people, 60, 70 people. Now, how much more does Israel going to take before they actually do strike back? You know, what are they waiting for? And you know, I kind of
Yeah, but again, that's the game, Chris. That's the game. Everyone's trying to do this psychic
They're
prediction.
waiting. They're
And in
waiting.
other words,
They're waiting for Trump because they're going to let the Shabbos goy do the dirty work.
yeah, the Mashiach.
yeah,
But see, I still
yeah,
think
but
I think Trump is actually playing the Jewish people
Well,
by
there's whoa.
going along with the show,
This
right?
is next level, man. This is next level. Do
He'll go,
enlighten us.
he'll go to the Wailing Wall and say a prayer and act as if he was full on with the Israeli agenda, when in fact he's not.
I don't think he is
yeah,
either.
no, but
I've kept
yeah,
that pretty close to my chest. I don't say that often, but I don't think he is either. But I don't have a lot. That's just purely intuitive now. I don't have anything to substantiate it. I would not survive against Douglas Murray.
yeah, but in reality, the forces of fulfillment need energy. and they're masters at understanding that algorithm.
Right.
So, in other words, if you know that you don't have the force to fulfill an agenda, how do you recruit the minds of people to fulfill it? It's like when people say people's minds control the outcome with the weather. And this has been proven with those experiments with water. In other words, intention can lead to fulfillment, but also they understand that if you don't have full sovereignty of your mind, they can steer your mind to co-contribute to the fulfillment of
Yep.
their agenda, not by agreeing with it, but just by saying, when is Israel going to bomb Lebanon? When are they going to bomb Iran? What's going on? And that very thought process, they understand how powerful it is on their behalf to suck your minuscule bit of energy, contribute to the fulfillment of that. And then everybody sits there on CNN and NBC go, oh my God, Israel's bombing Iran. Oh my God. And you go, if you said to those people, you contributed to that, they go, I spit on your grave.
Yeah.
And you go, but you don't understand. You don't understand. You actually gave a micro piece of your energy. And when you accumulate the global population and the way the agenda is global, they almost have an understanding of how much energy they're deficient and
Right.
how much of the program they need to get people to buy into. It's not
Yep.
about agreeing or disagreeing. It's just about focusing on that event. If you don't understand the intention you put into what you're focusing on, chances are you're being harvested.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
You know, if you're in your own religion, right? Like all three of the Abrahamic religions all have an end time prophecy involved attached to it, right? And these certain things in like the third temple, things like that, it needs to happen before the Armageddon or before the apocalypse. You know, and so there's so many things happening in today's world that people can relate to into that story. They can say, well, the reason this is happening is because it was prophesized, 2,000 years ago. And actually what human beings have done is they've created their own prophecy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
when a person is a naysayer and they always talk negatively, they usually attract negative things into their life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Well,
that's
gentlemen,
one of the things.
I gotta end it there. It's been a blast,
Yeah.
and we'll see you again next
Good to
time.
see you guys.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you,
Good to see
Santo.
you.
Be well.
I'll see you.
And here I am, ladies and gentlemen. Here I am again. And I hope you enjoyed that. I look forward to a day when more of you call in, or a very small group, according to the official numbers. We're a very small group on YouTube, and I'd like to meet more of you. I meet a lot of you off air, but why don't you come in and say hello? No big deal. So with that said, I am Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.